About a month ago, I asked myself if I could predict a 5-star read for my 50th book of 2024, and well, the results are in. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra the TBR0, and I challenged myself with 3 different books, reading them to 25% each, to see if I could predict from that which ones would be 5 stars to ensure that my 50th book of the year was a 5-star read. Those books ended up being A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers, My Murder by Katie Williams, and Soulless by Gail Carriger. Honestly, all 3 of them ended up being really lovely. I am so glad that I seem to be understanding my taste enough to have chosen 3 books that I wouldn't have been surprised if all of them ended up being 5 stars. So it really worked out for me because that would have been bad if I had a dud. Basically, after the 25% mark, I was at a loss because every single book seemed like a 5-star for me, and I didn't really know where to go from there. So I ended up stopping there, gave that the part 1. All of you ended up voting in the comments, and I do have those votes in front of me, and we're gonna see if you were right. Not only if you were right in choosing which book would be a 5-star, but also which book I chose for my 50th book, and if I was right. Did I choose the one that was 5-star? Were they all 5 stars? Well, we're gonna find out today. Before we get into the results of these 3 books though, I recently started a Patreon. It's called The Manor, and I am just overjoyed by the number of people who've already signed up. Today is Friday. I believe it's the 17th of May. I don't know how months and dates work, but I'm recording right now, and so I'll be kind of giving some shout out, some appreciation to those people. And if you've signed up since this, I promise you I will recognize you in the next video, but I really wanted to make sure I appreciated them. So thank you so much to our current sleuths: Michael, Brianna, Kay, Laura, Megan, Rainey, Brian, Servasha, Tennille, and Sam. Thank you to my witnesses: Brittany, Stacy, Laura, Solar, Jay, Jojo, Sam, and Bridget. And thank you to our suspects. We need suspects in this crime: Julie, Shayna, and Helen. Which one of you did it? We'll find out. Unfortunately, there isn't a body yet. No one has signed up for the corpse, which is totally fine. I just find that very funny that apparently we're not dealing with a murder mystery at the moment. It's going to be a theft, maybe vandalism, blackmail. You know, we have enough crimes to go around, so it's fine. Anyways, thank you all so much for joining The Manor. I'm really excited, and I promise you it's going to be a great time. I'm just feeling all the appreciation. A minor interruption at some point in this introduction. I need to let you know that if you want to see part 1, where I ask the question, will my 50th book be a 5-star? Can I predict it? And watch me read to the 25% mark of all 3 of the books that I'm going to be talking about here, then please go check out that video. It won't take very long, I promise. And I'll make sure to have the card up here in this corner, or maybe it's in this corner. I can't remember. I don't know how mirror recording works, and also I'll have it linked below if that's easier for you. So yeah, definitely go check that out. Make your own prediction and then see if you ended up being right. This is your final chance to do it. Back to business though. Let's talk about these 3 reads and also who predicted that they would be a 5-star for me. Firstly, I'll go over the book that had the least number of votes, My Murder. This one was voted upon by Michaela and JL. I'm not surprised by Michaela because she also gave this 5 stars, and she's just honestly over the moon about the book, so it makes sense that she would vote for that. So these 2 people thought My Murder would be my 5-star read of this vlog, and it kind of tracks. It was a weird book, and I do like weird books. It's a mix of literary fiction, futuristic sci-fi, and thriller. A lot of times it gets mainly thrown into the thriller category, but I don't think that category fits it enough because of how quasi and strange it is. We follow Lou. She is the victim of a serial killing. She and a bunch of other women in this futuristic world get a bit of a second chance. They're cloned, and now she's returned to her lifestyle as a mother of an infant with her husband, and she also knows that she had been killed before, and it's very strange. There is a bit of a support group for her and the other survivors. Well, did they survive? No, but they've been brought back to life, and to see how they've acclimated in this world, and a lot more strange elements happen. She begins to question what actually happened to her, especially because she and the other clones are not allowed to know what happened, or at least their brains have been kind of cleaned so that they don't remember the events immediately leading up to their death and their death in general, just because that'd be a really traumatic, horrific experience. At least that's what they're told. And so Lou begins to ask certain questions and it leads to answers that she may or may not be happy with. So I ended up getting a 25% with this book, and I was really intrigued. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I continue with this? Or am I just intrigued because, yeah, the 25% is adding the tension, but will the last 75% of the book actually pay off? You know, that is a question. Is the premise going to hold throughout? Or we've all been there where we've read a book and the beginning is the strongest element because the author had a really good idea. Well, I can tell you, I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So this one wasn't a 5-star for me, but the question is, did I start with this book? Did this book end up being my 50th book of the year? No. However, I do have to let you all know in on a secret. I did start it. It was meant to be my 50th book, but I read one more chapter, just one more, and I got cold feet. I put the book down. I couldn't continue. And it's because there was a certain dynamic between Lou and her husband. We get backstory as far as how they met and how they ended up becoming a romantic couple. And I wasn't a huge fan of how it went about. So I was like, you know what? I need to follow this mood change. And so I put the book down. So those of you who voted Michaela and JL, it didn't end up being my 50th book, but it did end up getting 4.5 stars in the end. So when I eventually did pick it up, I was super satisfied. I was really fascinated. My only critiques are the coupling between, you know, our two main characters, how they got to know each other. It gave me a little bit of an itchy feeling. And then the ending, which is the most controversial element. So many reviews either say they adored the ending, weren't sure how they felt, or absolutely hated it. That the book got a low rating mainly because of how the ending came to be. And I didn't mind the ending. I understood it. I appreciated it. There were some things that I wish could have come to fruition. Either I wanted more detail. It felt a bit rushed. I wanted more information. I wanted us to take our time with the ending because it did wrap up really quickly. Or I would have been happier with an alternate ending that I'm not going to say, because if I say it, that means that ending didn't happen and I'm spoiling it for you all. So this still gets a 4.5. I still find this author, Katie Williams, to be so strong, especially because now I've read 2 books by her that I loved. So she's going to probably be an auto-buy author for me whenever she comes out with her 3rd book, because the first one, Tell the Machine Goodnight, is also great, also underrated. Becca, I saw your comment on that video and I fully agree. Both of us need to get people to read that because it was so good. And then there were 2. So I'm either starting with Soulless as my 50th book or A Prayer for the Crown Shy. Well, I'm going to keep you all waiting for a little bit longer. Those of you who voted for Soulless include Nikki, Renee, Zach, Helen, Jess, and I wrote Soulless. Who was that? Let me check. Stacy. Apparently, when I was writing this down, rather than writing Stacy's name, I just wrote the title again, Soulless. I promise you, Stacy, I do not think you're soulless. You are a lovely person. I really appreciate you, but that threw me for a loop. So that means we have 6 people who voted for Soulless as my 5-star read and potentially my 50th book of the year. Well, I'll tell you the rating, and then we're going to move on to A Prayer for the Crown Shy. I'll tell you my rating for that, and then I'll reveal what my 50th book was, just because why not? Keep the tension going. So for Soulless, I gave this 4.75 stars. It was so close to being a 5-star read, and obviously that means I'm 100% continuing with the series. Julie, I saw your comment. You and I can 100% continue the series together because I need to. It was so good. I was so obsessed with Miss Terabody. I was obsessed with the world. I loved that it was a classic historical fiction setting, that there was a bit of mystery going on, at least in this first book, that there was paranormal activity because supernatural creatures were just kind of walking about London society and they kind of accepted that they were there, even though there was still some tension. There was romance. It had it all. There was humor. I was laughing so many times. I love this book. I was obsessed. But why did it get not 5 stars, but 4.75 stars? Why did I shave just a little bit of rating pointage away from this read? Well, I will say that there were a few convenient situations, some puzzle pieces that were snapped together a bit too convenient for me at the end of the book, especially because I felt as though there were some characters who were important that I didn't really notice throughout the book, and I don't know if they just kind of came to be, or if they actually were there and I just didn't notice them, and that could be a me problem. especially because there was so much else happening that I was invested in. I guess that could have been a distraction tactic by Garager, trying to like keep us involved in other kind of conflicts and intrigues so that this character went a bit too undetected, but I still loved it. I found it so entertaining. And on top of that, the mystery really isn't the main point of it. There are so many other genres or major themes going on in this book that I also can't fully fault it, because I didn't enter this book expecting to be like, let me solve a mystery. Is there going to be fair play involved? So 4.75, just, it was so good. And that leads me to the third book that could have been my 50th read and could be a 5-star. A Prayer for the Crown Shy. This one ended up being a sequel. So I kind of switched every single book element up. We had My Murder, a standalone, Soulless, the beginning of a series, and then A Prayer for the Crown Shy, a sequel to a book that I absolutely loved. I gave 5 stars to A Psalm for the Wild Built. So very, very interesting how I definitely did not mean to switch it up in that way. And every single book features kind of a different genre or a different tone. So I think I did a really good job of providing myself variety. So that's, good job, past Leandra. With A Prayer for the Crown Shy, though, we did have a lot of votes. So Mona, Rainey, Yelena, Julie, Laura, Crystal, Deborah, and Jen, all of you were so adamant that A Prayer for the Crown Shy would be my 5-star read, would be my top book, and you were obviously rooting for it to be my 50th book too. And that ended up being 8 votes. So we went from 8 votes, 6 votes, and 2 votes. This one obviously was the crowd favorite as far as who we thought. This wasn't the dark horse, at least. And I can tell you, I gave it 5 stars. No one's surprised. Of course I gave it 5 stars. I love Mosscap. I absolutely love Sibling Dex. I will say that one of my favorite characters of all time at this point is Mosscap, and there were quite a few people in the comments who agreed with me because, oh my gosh, it's just such a great character. And the relationship that Mosscap and our Sibling Dex have are just, it's lovely. I love how supportive they are. And I was really fascinated by the tone switch when it comes to Mosscap kind of being the main character, in the fact that we're dealing with conflicts and questions and a little bit of growth on Mosscap's side. For A Psalm for the Wild Built, I felt as though we were focusing on Dex and their own questions with purpose and being satisfied with life and what can they do to feel satisfaction with what they do, to feel purposeful, to feel as though they have value or providing value to society. Whereas this time, the questions that were asked were more from Mosscap, and Dex was helping this little robot try to figure out its place in the world and how it can move forward in its quest to figure out what humanity needs, what makes humanity happy, and what makes Mosscap happy. No one's surprised. This was a really kind of silly video to do, to be like, which one's gonna get a 5-star, when you all knew that I'm very much biased for Mosscap. I mean, anyways. So that one got a 5-star, Soulless got 4.75, and My Murder got 4.5. We already know, I already revealed that My Murder was the tempted 50th book, and then immediately I just 180 and was like, no, I can't touch it. So we put that to the side. But the question is, did I end up reading A Prayer for the Crown Shy as my 50th read, or did I choose Soulless? Did I get that 5-star for my 50th read, or did I get a 4.75, which is also still completely fine? Well, I ended up reading Soulless. So my 50th read was not a 5-star predicted book. That's totally fine, because as you could see, nothing got lower than a 4.5. I am obviously so satisfied with every single book I read, and that means I can actually recommend it to anyone watching. I hope that I've intrigued you. I hope that you had fun in this process, and I hope that those of you who chose A Prayer for the Crown Shy, even though you weren't right that it was my 50th book, you're 100% right, and you have bragging rights for choosing it as my 5-star of the 3 that I read. I'm so excited because all 3 of these authors have quickly become favorites of mine. Even though Soulless, Gail Carriger, it's my first time with her, I'm clearly going to love the entire series. I have no doubts about that. Meanwhile, Becky Chambers and Katie Williams are 2 authors that have kind of solidified in my mind, where I will be happy to read anything they create and even buy it before reading, which is something I obviously don't typically do, because all 3 of these books I borrowed from the library before buying them. I've already collected A Prayer for the Crown Shy, so that's already part of my collection. The two that have been a bit more elusive are My Murder and Solace. I might have to order Solace online, and My Murder, a few libraries in my greater area have a physical copy. It just depends on if I feel the need or desire to actually drive there and buy the physical copy myself, because it would be a bit of a drive. As many of you know, I live in a bit of a bookstore dead zone. So, food for thought. I totally want to do this again. I'm actually currently, I've just finished my 75th book of the year actually this morning not during recording. You saw me, I do not have a clone. I know that I adored My Murder, but cloning people is not something I'm into. So I didn't actually finish my 75th book while recording, but just before I finished it. So we're already halfway to my next huge milestone, which will be 100 books. And I feel as though I want to do this again. This was super fun. The concern is that it might happen during the Amazing Readathon. If you have no idea what that is, it's a June readathon happening all month. Go Pride, woohoo! And also go Amazing Race. So it's gonna be really fun. And I hope any of those buzzwords have intrigued you. I'll be sure to have that linked below. But the chaos of that might make it difficult for me to figure out a 100th book while legs are dropping and just everyone's going crazy, but we could make it work. Either way, I definitely want to do this again. It was really fun. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Thank you all so much for supporting me in whatever way you can, whether it was by watching part 1. I should have said that. Hold on, I'm gonna record a make sure you watch part 1 if you don't know what's happening here kind of clip. So yeah, I'll be right back.
Please let me know if you want to see part 1 or ask a question. We'll let you go if you watching. Please like and please go here. Then please go to the video. We'll turn on here is my work. These are your links. Also, I below if that's your own version, and then see if you like instructions.
Okay, I'm back. It only took a second for you, but that was a recording that I'm gonna have to stitch and do all the crazy things because I didn't think about it. So moving forward, I was thanking you all for just being great. Yes, thank you all so much for getting to the end. I really do appreciate you. Be sure to like the video, comment how you feel. Are you a part of the victors? Were you right about my 5-star read? Or have I convinced you to try any or all of these books? I would love to see it. And also if you have suggestions as far as maybe tweaks to this process, how I could change it for my 100th book, or if you have books that you really want to see me read for my 100th book, please put them in. I can totally trust you because this community is great and no one, I think, would ever intentionally stray me wrong. So thank you so much. And also thank you all to my patrons who are here and really kind of taking a chance on me because Patreon's super new. It's the first week, but I'm already really excited about it. So I really do appreciate you all. And I do hope to see you in the next one. Happy reading. Bye.